Hello beautiful, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tina and I'm the makeup enthusiast. In today's video I am bringing you a bit of a foundation review. That's why I have eyes done and no base on. So I am going to be doing a bit of a review on the new Ultraviolet Dream Screen Tinted Veil. So yes, if you want to know my thoughts, I'm going to do a wear test, I'm going to do an application test on this one. I have worn it once already, so I already have a little bit of an idea of my thoughts on this one. So before we get into the review and the application and wear test, if you are new around here and you do enjoy this video and you enjoy my content, I hope you would consider subscribing down below so you can keep up to date on all my beauty content that I release on this channel. And without further ado, let's jump on into the video. This is the Ultraviolet Dream Screen Tinted Veil. So this is essentially like a tinted moisturizer, like a skin tint. So it's not going to be like super full coverage like you would expect from a foundation, or even like probably some BB creams or CC creams. This is like a lighter coverage. This one is a 50ml bottle. It's Australian owned and made. Ultraviolet is my favorite sunscreen brand. All of their sunscreens are SPF 50 plus, and it is SPF 50 plus rated to the Australian climate, to the Australian requirements. Australian SPF ratings are a lot stricter than most other countries because our environment and like UV rays are a lot more intense. Our ratings are a lot more strict. So to get a rating of SPF 50, it means it's pretty legit. I did pick up the color V2, so I picked up the second lightest shade. I was going to pick up the lighter shade, but I decided to go for the second lightest just to give my skin a little bit of color. So this one came out just recently. I think it launched late November. I ordered it as soon as it was released. This is available in 11 shades. It says that there are adaptable shades. Take of that what you will. It's supposed to be super light. It's a tinted skin serum, SPF 50 UVA and UVB protection, same silky consistency as her sister, which is the best-selling Queen Screen. It is a glowy finish, and I can vouch for that because I have worn it once already. It's fragrance free, and it does say it's suitable for all skin types. It does retail for 55 Australian dollars. You can get it directly from the Ultraviolet website. Free shipping is over 50 Australian dollars on that website. Ultraviolet is stocked at a few other places: Sephora Australia, Adore Beauty. As you can hear, it is quite liquidy. I would liken this to kind of the formula of like MAC Face and Body, and when I squeeze out, you can see it is very liquidy. When I purchased this, it came with a free sponge. So it came with the Dream Sponge. This says that it is to be used when applying the tint or reapplying your favorite skin screen. You're supposed to use this one dry to apply the skin screen, and when I open it up, it is like one of those velvety type textures. It's like that microfiber velvet texture, very similar to, I think it's the Juno & Co sponge. I do also have a Sigma F80 flat top kabuki. And I also have I'm gonna have to go and wash this one before I use it, but I also have an Ella Cosmetics beauty sponge, and I will use this one wet. I'm going to do 2 wear tests. My initial wear test that I'm going to do now, I am going to apply this and only this. So far for my morning skincare, I have just applied the Dermalogica facial moisturizer. Let's start off with, seeing as this is freshly wet, I'm going to start off with this and take what's on the back of my hand. I think this is going to be like such light coverage that you guys probably won't be able to see on camera. But I guess that's a good way of you guys knowing whether it's enough coverage for your liking or not. Okay, so I'm just going to pour some on directly onto my sponge and then go in on this side of my face. I think the downside of using a wet sponge is it's already quite dewy, and you are going in and applying it with something wet, you automatically get that maximum glow if you are using a wet sponge. So if you have really dry skin and you want like the instant glow with this, maybe try using a wet sponge and you'll get it. And you can somewhat build it up. I have a few like little problem areas, like especially kind of this area on my cheek, on both cheeks. I often find it difficult to get coverage in that area. This is probably not going to last very well on my face if I just leave it like this. We'll see if it sets down. And like the color match, I probably should have gone the lightest, but it is nice to have something a little bit, just like a hair darker. Next up, I'm going to go in with a brush. We'll see how this goes in terms of like coverage. In terms of coverage, it's probably a hair less, especially again in my problem area. The brush seems to just like pick it up a little bit more in that area. In terms of the glow, I do think that this side is a little bit more matte. The bristles seem to absorb a little bit of that extra oil coming through from the product, as opposed to this side is like super duper wet. This side almost looks like it's actually got water sitting on top of it, like it's not kind of sitting nicely into my skin, as opposed to this side. This side is kind of actually pressing into my skin a lot nicer. So I don't know whether you can see. I'm going to zoom you in as much as I can. You can kind of see, I think this side, it's kind of looking more greasy, and you can see the texture a little bit more. As you can see, like I have some spots going on. It's definitely not covering them. And you can build it up slightly. There's a little bit of color peeking through. Now I'm going to go in with the sponge that it came with, and I think that this might be potentially a good one because having it dry, it might suck up some of that grease a little bit. And I'm just popping it on the sponge like that. Okay, and we might get, I assume we'll probably get fuller coverage with this one. Just see if I can build it up on parts where I have redness and like pimples and stuff like that. I've covered my face. I'm just going to use like the bum of the sponge to try and like just go through areas where I get really oily, like my T-zone here, and see if I can kind of dab up some of the excess from the sponge, just to try and mattify it down a little bit. So this is full face using the sponge. I think the dry sponge is probably the best method. This is what it's looking like now, and it is 12:11 p.m. when I'm touching it. So I've probably had it on for a few minutes now. It is still like sticky. It's still movable on my face, and when I lift my hands off, like stuff, the product is coming off on my fingers. So it's not one that sets down either. My 4.5 hour check-in, and by golly gosh, I am looking like a greasy mess. So this is 4.5 hours of it. I've just been chilling around the house. This is just with like my natural oil productions. I haven't been like doing any physical exercise or like anything like that to increase my oil productions on my face. So this is just like casually chilling around the house, doing editing, filming, whatnot. So I'm looking quite greasy just from chilling around the house. It is 10 to 5, so I'm going to leave it on for a couple more hours, but as you can see, it definitely does start to look quite oily after a while. I will give it one thing, even though I'm looking quite oily, I don't feel like it is starting to slide off my face. I might just kind of go over again with my sponge on my chin just to see if I can get rid of some of the oil, and then I'll leave the rest of my face as is. So I'm just going to just go over. Okay, so that definitely looks like it's taken some of the shine away. However, it has still kind of kept the same kind of coverage. So we are back for final check-in of the day. It has been 7.5 hours. It is now 7:45. I am looking very, very greasy. So I can see there's a lot of oil, there's a lot of shine on my face. So this is what it looks like with oily skin 7.5 hours after application. This is just the product by itself. No powder, no primer, nothing. Just living its best life on my skin. So very glowy after the fact. And I'm just gonna, because my skin already looks terrible, I'm just gonna show you, like, you can definitely like pick up the product. You can see like it is still like fluid on my skin. It hasn't set down at all. I do also want to show you guys like how it looks if you do take the grease off. So I've just got some blotting papers here, and this will give you guys like a good idea of how much grease is like sitting on my face at the moment. So as you can see, this blotting paper is like satched. It is soaked, and when I'm blotting, it's picking a lot of the product up off my face. It doesn't look amazing after 8 hours on oily skin without any kind of setting, but at least now you have a good idea of how it's going to look on your face, like in a natural environment. You can definitely take some of the shine down with blotting papers, but you do lose the coverage, and that's because I've left it so long to blot. Wear test number 2. Today I am going to be using this with a mattifying primer. So this is the Mary Kay oil mattifier. I'll be then topping it with the Dream Sceen Tinted Veil. Then I'm going to be setting with powder. I'm then going to do my normal blush, bronzer, highlight, eyebrows, everything, and I will set it all with a setting spray. Starting off with the Mary Kay mattifier, and I like to put this kind of just in my T-zone. So I'm starting off by using my Oma Beauty concealer. I just like to put like a little tiny dot on the inner corner and the outer corner, and then I go in with a sponge and blend it out. And then in with the Ultraviolet Dream Sceen Tinted Veil. Again, I have the color V2, and I am going to be using the sponge that it came with dry. Now I'm going to use like the bum of the sponge, and I'm just going to dab over these areas that are looking very shiny, and hopefully we can at least just get rid of a little bit of the shine. So I always like to set under my eyes with the Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Magic Powder for under eye and face. This just has a little bit of like a sheen to it. And then for my face, to set my face, I'm going to use the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder, just because this has a little bit of colour to it. So I thought it might be good for, you know, seeing if we can add somewhat of a little bit more coverage to this product if you are looking for something that's, you know, a little bit more coverage. So this is what we are looking like in terms of base. So this is after setting with powder over mattifying primer. I mean, I don't think it looks too bad. When I'm looking in the mirror, it actually looks quite nice and has a decent amount of coverage. As per usual, like there's a little bit of redness peeking through on my cheeks, but I find that with a lot of foundations. Overall, it gives you quite a nice coverage, and with the powder over the top, it does bring the shine down quite a lot. It's currently 20 past 12. For my contour blush and highlight, or bronzer I should say, I use the NARS Laguna bronzer. I use that like around the perimeter in essentially like the 3 motion. Blush is the Hourglass Mood Exposure Ambient Lighting Blush, and then for highlight I used the Glow highlight powder out of the most recent Charlotte Tilbury Nudegasm palette. It's like the nude highlight. This is what my skin is looking like, and as I said, I've probably had this on for about half an hour already. This is what it's looking like. This is my 4-hour update. We are sitting at 20 past 4, so it's a little bit more than 4 hours. But this is what it's looking like after 4 hours. I have not touched up or anything. It is just purely what was on my face when I started. The only thing I've touched up is I did reapply lipstick. I don't know whether you can see, but I do have like some sunglasses marks. I went out to get some lunch, so I do have a little bit of rubbing on my nose from sunglasses. But other than that, I think it's still looking quite nice. It is starting to get quite glowy, so it's getting to that point where I probably ordinarily would like to blot, just because it's getting to that like kind of funny stage where if I don't blot soon, it's probably going to start falling to pieces. I don't think it looks terrible. It's just adding a lot of glow and luminosity to the skin. So this is what we're looking like at 4 hours. Hi, hello, welcome back. I am here to give you my final update and final thoughts on the Ultraviolet Dream Screen Tinted Veil. Currently 10 to 9 o'clock at night, so I have had this face on for about 8.5 hours now, and this is what it's looking like. I know a lot of you are mainly concerned with how this would wear if you have oily skin, and as you guys saw from the first wear test when I just used this by itself, I do have quite oily skin, and this can go very oily on my face. Comparing that, I might try and do a side by side right now. Comparing that to my face right now, I feel like the way my skin is looking right now, it's looking more like a healthy glow as opposed to greasy the way my skin was looking when I was just using this. So I do think that using powder and a mattifying primer and setting spray definitely does help the longevity of this foundation, and when you get to that like 8-hour mark, it looks more presentable. Like it looks kind of on that glowy side, verging onto oily, as opposed to when it's just by itself, you just look like a greasy mess. So I do think that I could very well get away with this probably for like essentially like a foundation for work, probably closer to as we're getting into winter. In the middle of winter, I think this would be very, very good. I think like in the dead of winter, my skin is definitely not going to look this bad after that 8 hours. It's going to be a little bit less greasy. So I think for winter, this might be a really nice one to reach for. It's not going to be as heavy on the skin. It's going to allow my skin to breathe a little bit more. And when my skin is just that hint drier, and when the air's a little bit drier, it won't be as greasy as what I'm looking at right now. Now, I do want to show you what it looks like with a blot and a reapply with powder, just so you have an idea of how it works with blotting papers and reapplication of a powder. So I'm just going to quickly go through. Now, when I use this by itself, the blotting papers pulled a lot of the product off, which, you know, don't love that. But now, you know, it's still doing that somewhat. I don't know whether you can kind of see the color on the blotting paper. It's still doing that somewhat. It's definitely not picking up the product as much as it was when it was just by itself. Using that powder over the top of it definitely helps it set down a lot better. It doesn't move around on the skin as much, and it does just stay nicer for a lot longer. It has gone a little bit like texturally on my pores here in the center. It has like pulled a little bit of the product up, but it's not terrible. I do have a little bit of like wear off on my nose from just like brushing my nose. I do still have some wear on either side of my nose from my sunglasses. Comparing it to other foundations that I have used in the past, I don't think it's horrible. And I'm just going to go back in again with that Charlotte Tilbury powder. You can definitely get away with blotting and repowdering. I will, however, suggest to you that if you are wanting to go down that route of blotting and repowdering, I would probably do it before the 8-hour mark. I just think that with this product, once it gets to that point where your oils have mixed with it quite a lot, you can end up getting this kind of texture on your skin where it's almost like it's kind of pulled the product essentially like out of your pores, I guess you could say, and it just kind of emphasizes the texture of your pores. Because when I'm looking in the mirror right now, like from a distance my skin looks fine. When I look up close, I can see the definition of my pores, if that makes sense. Say the worst part is this area here. It has very pros and cons. As you saw with me just using this bare, it does get very oily very quickly for those of us oily skin gals. If you have dry skin, I think this is going to be a fantastic product for you. I really hope that Ultraviolet come out with a product like this in a matte version sometime in the future. I would be very excited to see that, because I think the coverage on this product just for a tinted veil is really nice. It's actually something that I kind of look for on like the weekends or an everyday basis when I want something that's not so heavy on the skin. And I think a product like this, because it has the SPF and you're getting the benefit of like a foundation and an SPF together, it's kind of removing that extra layer from your skin. So if you find your skin gets really congested sometimes because you put so much on it, this might be a really nice product to consider, because you're getting your SPF and your foundation or like some color on your skin essentially in the same product. I think that the coverage is actually really nice on this. I think it's probably, in my opinion, higher than a tinted veil. You could definitely shear this down if that's what you want. But I do think, and I think that you guys can see from the demonstration, you can definitely build this up a decent amount. And if you pair it with a powder that has a bit of color with it, you can add to that level of coverage as well. For $55, you get a 50ml bottle. I think this bottle will last me an eternity. I will probably include this in a project pan at some point next year, but I'll probably reach for this on weekends when I want something to help my skin look a little bit healthier, when I'm feeling a little bit self-conscious about like how red my skin is or something like that. Like I said, it's got its pros and cons. I think if you have normal verging on the drier side, this product is going to be a winner for you. If you have super oily skin, you might only be able to use it in like winter times. I'm excited for a potential matte version. I'm just putting those vibes out into the world. Would I repurchase it? I don't think I would repurchase it, but if they come out with a matte version, I definitely would pick that one up. My most preferred method for application of this product is with the sponge it came with and using it dry. I think by using the sponge dry, you get the highest possible coverage. So that is my review and 2 wear tests on the Ultraviolet Dream Screen Tinted Veil. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on the product, on my wear test, how you think it looked on my skin. I'm waiting to see how my skin's going to look when I edit this video. I obviously haven't seen that yet, but just looking at it in real life, it looks quite nice. Let me know down in the comments whether you have picked this one up and how you are getting on with it. If you do have dry skin or really, really oily skin, please let us know down in the comments how you're getting on with the product, because I know a lot of people are going to be looking down there for opinions from other people's skin types to see how it works on them. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. And while you're down there, I hope you would consider subscribing if you do want to keep up to date on all my future content. That's it for this video, beautiful. I hope that you're having an absolutely fantastic day. I hope that you are staying safe and healthy and looking after yourself. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye, beautiful.